Hi guys, welcome to BigLozOfficial. Today we're going to chat about what's happened this weekend at Britain's Strongest Man, have a little chat about my predictions from beforehand and what's actually happened, and in between that we're going to play some darts. Today we're going to talk a little bit about what's happened this weekend, or the weekend just gone at Britain's Strongest Man. Really amazing show. Today I've got Will with me, who's he's normally working behind the scenes on BigLozOfficial, but
where I prefer to be.
Where he prefers to be, but no, I've made him kind of join me today.
I feel the pressure this time.
Do you?
Well, everyone else has been received well. They all like him. They like Sam, and they like Liz, and they like Dawn. And they're going to say, get back behind the camera.
No, I'm sure it'll be fine. So Will focuses on Olympic weightlifting mainly, but you're quite a big fan of most strength sports, aren't you?
Yeah, anything where they're picking things up and putting them down.
Cool. So let's get into what's happened on the weekend. Obviously, I did my my little predictions beforehand. Predicted that Eddie would win. That's not, there's no kind of special kind of mystic Meg kind of predictions going on there. But Eddie's phenomenal, awesome result. He became five-time champion, winning 5 titles in a row, he's the first guy that's ever done that. He wasn't at his best. People can say what they like. I said beforehand I didn't think he'd absolutely run away with it. He still won by a good few points, but he wasn't at the kind of level that won him the World's Strongest Man title. And he explained on the weekend that he's had some hip injuries and a few other niggles, and he's just busy, and his motivation isn't kind of what it used to be. So, he did he was a real professional. He's a winner. He's got a real determined kind of mentality, and he came and did the job. The positions behind that were always where it was going to be exciting. I had Graham Hicks picked for second and Adam Bishop picked for third. Hicksy kind of did what I expected. With the events that we had at the British, he was always going to be good. He's actually improved as well. I mean, since last time I saw him,
he's always been impressive with his sort of
with his pressing and stuff like that. But his yoke was unbelievably quick, and just every event he was solid on.
Remember the time?
It was fast. It was like 8 seconds or 9 seconds, between 8 and 9 seconds. It was quick. Great. So yeah.
I mean, Eddie's not done too bad with the yoke compared to he wasn't very good when he started, but then he knew that and he dressed it, and then he was starting to really sort of push it in the last few years. So
Eddie, the last few years, has kind of made sure he's a good all-round athlete now. Yeah. When he first came on the scenes, he was strong. He's always been strong, but he had a lot of big weaknesses in his game. But he went away and addressed them really well.
So for Graham to sort of come up and then start.
Yeah, I mean, Graham's always been good, but he on his day with the right events, Graham's really good. Yeah. He's world class.
For a short guy as well.
Yeah, I mean, when you see how many monsters are in Strongman, he's not the tallest guy in the world, but Graham's got unbelievable shoulder strength. He moves well. He's brought his deadlift up. He surprised me on two events. He surprised me on was the deadlift. Not that he's a bad deadlifter, but he matched Bish and Felix on the deadlift. And those two are kind of absolute world-class deadlifters.
Yeah.
So to match them, it just shows how much work he's been putting in. And the good thing with Graham, he just keeps quiet about it, gets on with his work, and comes and performs well. And he was, clearly second best on the day. Loading event, I thought he might have pushed Eddie on, maybe a little slip here and there, but overall, where he maybe lost a point or two, he made up for in events he didn't expect him to. So it was a good, solid performance.
Which is how you want to sort of take the day, really. You want to, when the events don't go so well, you make up for them later.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Strongman. I think I'm going to come to it in a minute with some of the younger guys. So I'll probably save it, but just understanding that you get one event out of the way and then you've got to forget about it.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that in a second, because I want to talk about Bish and Terry as well. I had Bish to come third. Terry pipped him. They were equal on points, and Terry got the nod on countback. Terry was very impressive, and I personally wasn't sure how he'd do beforehand. I thought the weight loss could affect him. And on the static events, it has a little bit. His deadlift and his pressing are a little bit down on what they used to be. But where he's kind of lost that, he's made real good improvements on his moving events and his fitness. Terry, in the past, struggles on one-day shows. Yeah. He's very, very good at a longer format, like at World's Strongest Man, over a number of days, where you only do 1, 2, 3 events a day. He has that recovery time and he can get himself ready. The one-day shows, you often find Terry cramping towards the end and struggling.
He's made a hell of a change in his physique and
he's changed like massively.
And everything.
And it's it's paying off for him. I think as we get older, we've got to kind of look at looking after our bodies, and he's looking at prolonging his career. And you have to think about these things, and he did really well. He surprised me. You know,
back on the podium. Little bit of a comeback.
Yeah, I mean, Terry at his best wouldn't be happy with third at Worlds, the British, sorry. But if you think of where he was in Manchester in September to where he's come to now, there's been big improvements, and it's good to see. I mean, it just shows how strong the standard is in the UK. We've got so many good guys. Bish, back from injury. Another solid performance from him, and I always expected it from Bish. He's a good all-round athlete, and was clearly those four were clearly the top guys on the day. The one not big surprise, but he really stepped up, and not many people were talking about him, was Paul Smith.
Yeah, I like
Paul. He's just like a little bulldozer. He's got again someone with no big weaknesses. He's consistent on every event. He put in an unbelievable performance in the front hold to win that, beating Eddie. I don't think Eddie's lost a front hold in years.
Yeah, so that's impressive in itself.
Yeah.
I mean, Paul's one of those ones that I saw him at the British last year, and he, to begin with, he just doesn't look like the other sort of...
Don't say he doesn't look like a strong man.
I don't know. It doesn't look like the other strong men, compared to the size.
He's
like
shorter and stockier.
He's shorter and stockier and that, and for what the performances that he pulls out is just amazing. His deadlift last year was climbing onto his max. I think he said he'd only done sort of 20-30 kilos over the reps, and he went out there and he just dug deep. He's an impressive athlete, and he's a nice guy as well.
He works hard. He'll commit 100% on every single event. And he doesn't get talked about that much because he's only 23. A lot of people talk about the youngsters, but he kind of gets on with his training, doesn't make a big deal about too much, and he's just improving steadily. And he's won some good competitions. Last year he won the Ultimate Strongman World Youth Championships, or Junior Championships, whichever it is. And there's a lot of good guys come through that. I mean, Ian Bibby competed in that a few years ago, and there's other good guys that have come through it. So he knows how to win competitions.
He did well at the UKs as well, didn't he, last year?
Yeah, he was in the final. I can't remember placings, to be honest. When I'm competing, I focus on myself, and I don't worry too much about anything else. But it's nice when you go as a fan and you can kind of appreciate everyone else.
Yeah.
When I compete, I have a different mentality to when I kind of go.
Well, you look like
as
you're
a
having
fan.
fun there with him anyway. Because I mean, the two of you were messing about a little bit, and it was a bit of fun, and that's what you want to see, people enjoying themselves.
Well, and this is what I'm going to come to now. The one, I'm not going to say disappointing performance, because it's harsh on Tom, but Tom Stockman has had a lot of pressure put on him recently. So when I started Strongman, or when I started in the gym, there was no Instagram, there was no Facebook. I didn't kind of start with the intention of thinking, oh, I'm a strongman. I just joined the gym because I wanted to get stronger, help me with like rugby and other sports that I used to play, and I kind of developed that strength. I was always pretty strong, but I enjoyed it. I just got in the gym, worked hard. Now you get 16-year-old kids posting up that they're a strongman on Instagram, and the following that they get then starts creating some pressure. And I think sometimes some people cope with it well, some people don't. But I think people need to just enjoy training as their fundamental first step.
Yeah, you've got to enjoy it first. Then
when you start developing and you start competing and you're enjoying it, you get better. Then you can focus on, right, I'm going to specialise now. I want to do strongman, powerlifting, weightlifting, tiddlywinks, whatever it might be. But
darts.
I might have to practice a bit more for that after today's performance. But Tom's had a lot of pressure. I've seen loads of comments saying Tom's going to be a future world's strongest man. Now, that's a lot of pressure for a young kid to take.
Yeah.
Tom is an excellent strongman. He has some brilliant events, and I think he's going to have a very bright future in the sport. I've competed with him. I know how good he is. But he's still young. He's still developing, and he's not yet won anything. And that's a big thing. I mean, people were kind of saying, Tom was talked about loads. No one mentioned Luke.
Yeah.
Luke Stoltman is a really good strongman. Very, very good all round, and he's beaten Tom at Scotland's Strongest Man the last 4 or 5 years in a row. It's much easier to go into a competition as an underdog where you've got no pressure on yourself and you can just enjoy it and do your best. When you start getting that pressure on yourself, and you saw it in the first event, you know, the log didn't go well for him and his just confidence dropped, and then as the day went on, his performance wasn't as good as we all know he's capable of.
That's what you're saying about you've got to forget about events that you don't do so well.
Exactly, and I've been there myself before, you know, I've been there where you have a bad event and your head goes down, but I've learnt over the years that you've got to block that out. And I've had many competitions now where I have a bad start and you can pull it back. The last few years at Worlds I've had a terrible start on the loading, but I've still managed to pull it back and get into the final. Whereas in the past I might have let that affect me, but you've just got to be able to block it out. You know, it's a new event, and you never know with Strongman. I mean, everyone will kind of look at the events and think, right, that's a good event for me, that's not so good. You kind of know where you need to place. But I've been to competitions before where I do really well on an event I didn't expect to, and badly on an event that I did expect to. You've just got to give 100% on each event and get that next one out of the way.
Not just that, the scoring in Strongman is a bit of an odd one. It's not consistent. So
No,
like sometimes they'll change the rules, and then you'll have someone that wasn't they're done well consistently through the sort of the games, and then it gets to the end and there'll be an event where the points make them jump 6 or 7 places.
That's more just a World's Strongest Man. Those things happen where they're trying to make it entertaining, which I don't particularly agree with. But most competitions, the standard scoring system would be, you know, say there's 10 athletes, you're going to get 10 points for first, down to 1 for last, and that's pretty standard in most competitions. And it was on the weekend, so you know we can't use that as an excuse for this show. But it just shows, I think sometimes there's too much pressure on some of the youngsters, and they're not given that chance to just develop and enjoy their training. And I see too many young guys now, they don't enjoy it. They do it because they want to be at a certain level.
Yeah.
And I think that's what helps me, is that I always enjoy Strongman. You look at Mark Felix, he enjoys it. A guy this weekend that it was kind of a pleasure to watch, really, was Ben Brunning. And you know, no one's mentioned Ben, but I saw him backstage and he just got a big smile on his face and he was loving it. And he's getting better. I competed against Ben at the UKs and he's improving. And I like seeing that. I like seeing people enjoy what they do. Sure, there's pressure sometimes, and you'll see me compete and be, you know, focused. But backstage, I'm always just trying to have a laugh and enjoy it and joke about. Whereas the guys start putting that pressure on themselves. Some people can cope with it. Eddie puts pressure on himself, but he can cope with it, and he's got that mentality to cope with it.
Yeah.
But even Eddie has had to go through that learning process. He's been competing as Strongman over 10 years. He hasn't just come from nowhere. He's developed over the years, and that confidence builds. Whereas some of the kids now, they're sort of straight, well, I'm going to dominate this weekend, and they haven't won anything yet. And as a kind of experienced athlete, I don't really care what people do in the gym. Sure, things can be impressive, but I like to see what they can do in competition.
Yeah. When
When the pressure's on, when it counts.
things are different when you
Very
up
different
against someone else.
You know, and that's why guys like, you know, Eddie, Terry, Felix, myself have kept coming back in the UK scene, because we win competitions and we might have an off day, but we come back and we perform well.
Definitely.
Right. Darts time.
Loz's debut.
$22. Could be a long game.
Supposed to go forwards, not backwards.
21.
Just best of 3.
Oh, yeah.
11.
Oh no, that's 12.
12.
Oh yeah, this is
14.
45.
I don't think that's Start shouting.
45 is better than 6.
Maybe.
Get myself to an out shot now.
An out shot from 100?
No, for after these. Yeah.
180.
I think people will be happy to know we're only playing 301, not 501.
How interested people will be at really mediocre darts.
18.
Lucky darts.
You require 138.
Easy. Treble 21st. 45. One thing I want to mention about this weekend gone is just how impressive the crowd was. You know, I remember my first Britain's Strongest Man being in front of nobody or a few people watching. Now I think there's about 5,000 or 6,000 people there on the weekend,
which is a lot compared to even sort of to last year.
Last year they were in the Doncaster Dome. I think there's about 1,500 last year.
So it's fairly
this
big
year
jump
it's
still.
a big jump. You know, proper arena now.
Somewhere in between that, sort of where it's been previous, and the Europes where they've got what, 10,000.
Europe's 10 to 12. Yeah, the arena shows now, and it's great. I love it.
Yeah,
I prefer
the
doing
atmosphere's there.
I prefer doing the one-day shows to World's Strongest Man now. The one-day shows in front of a crowd and proper knowledgeable fans for me is way better than competing in Botswana in front of a few local people and bison or something. You know, it's
Squat the bison.
yeah. The atmosphere isn't there, and it just feels weird. Whereas in the arena shows, you're in front of everyone. People are shouting and screaming for you. It's just brilliant, and it feels like a proper show now. And as an athlete, you kind of feel special doing it.
Yeah.
Whereas when I first did my first Britons, it's just a show in a car park, you know, with a few family watching. Now, 5,000 people screaming at you. At Europe's 10 to 12,000, and growing. You know, every year it's getting bigger. Yeah. And I think if we can keep that, you know, generating the popularity in the sport, it's going to be great.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, no, you say you don't feel like any sort of celebrity or anything, but you know, when you've got, you know, hundreds of thousands of people that watch you, and you're going to shows with 10,000 people, you've got a decent amount of fans.
Oh, it's really, you know, it can be really humbling experience. You know, even on the weekend, I wasn't competing, but the reception I got was fantastic, and it really means a lot to me. You know, it's a special feeling. But I'll always say, we're just lifting stuff up and putting it back down. It's
heavy stuff, impressive
heavy stuff. And that's not to say we're not good at it. You know, we are. But I like kind of trying to keep grounded and as humble as possible. You know, it is fun. You know, and
I think there might be more fans of the beard though than.
You reckon? There are more fans of the beard than the ability.
It's
now.
no coincidence that, you know, your career
I've got my
taken
bearded
off
mug up today
since the big.
So.
You should have a little calendar before beard and after beard.
I won a fair few shows before the beard too.
The fans.
I think the fans. There's just become more fans in the sport. Hopefully, maybe I don't know. Maybe the beard's got me a few extra fans. Yeah, no, I mean the whole weekend was great. There's some new guys, you know, putting great performances in. Some of them maybe not as, you know, everyone wants to win when you compete at that kind of show, but for some people, realistically, they're going to be fighting to win, or fighting for like the top 3 position. Obviously, is a big achievement, and also at Britain's the top 5 position is an achievement because you're looking at qualifying spots for World's Strongest Man.
Yeah,
and maybe a few guys look disappointed. You know, as Ken Nowicki, he came over he moved to the States now, but he's a great strongman from Scotland. put in a real good performance on the deadlift. Actually, I was very impressed with that. But I think he all round wasn't as good as he was hoping for. Aaron Paige, I spoke about Aaron beforehand. You could see after the log, he wanted a big performance on the log, and it didn't quite go to plan. And I think his confidence kind of dropped a bit. But he put in a solid performance. But you know, the guys like that we've mentioned earlier, that they've just got that consistency, and they don't give you anything easy.
Yeah,
you know, it's
they've been names for a while as well.
Yeah, it's just having that ability to keep forgetting about. I mean, Terry had a bad log. You know, his log was bad, and I thought, well, it's going to be a rough day. He got whacked in the eye by the log, but he came back strong, and that shows, you know, heart and determination.
Yeah, resolve.
Felix, I always knew Felix was going to be good at most events, but he was going to struggle on the log. Unfortunately for him, he really struggled on the log and came last. So if you come last in an event like that, in a contest of that standard, you're just in an uphill battle the whole way through. I think he finished 6th or 7th in the end. Maybe 7th. I think Luke Stoltman was 6th. I might have got that wrong, so don't quote me on it. I've got the results up on my page. You can go and have a look at.
Felix is just impressive to still be going.
Felix is 51, nearly 52, and still competing at a high level. That's impressive. But we get fed up of talking about Felix. I'm sure he's fed up of people reminding him
Probably
how old he is. But for anyone that's kind of about 30 years old and thinking that it's too late to get into it, Felix started in his 30s, so you know that shows you that it's never too late.
Yeah, still got time.
Still need the talent, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But no, it was a great event, and you know, I'm hoping that next year I'll be back competing because I want to be a part of it.
Yeah, like you said, it's all about choosing your events that you do now, and you know, maybe.
Yeah, for me now, it's prolonging my career, being smart, picking the right shows. Hopefully, Europe's is next. Still got a few little issues with the body, but we're working on them. Back training at least. But you know, when I'm not competing, I enjoy doing this stuff, and I enjoy kind of being a fan, really, and just, you know, I love Strongman. I love.
A lot of people are keeping an eye on you for being the future of commentary and punditry and Strongman.
We'll see. I don't mind getting into that kind of thing. It's good fun. Just being involved with it. You know, I did the VVIP meet and greet on the weekend with Magnus Fur and Bill Kazmaier. That was good fun. We had like a Q&A up there and just joking with the guys and telling some stories and answering questions for people. You know, I'm involved in the sport all the time, so you know, I've got that luxury of I've got first-hand knowledge of what goes on, whereas sometimes when you read stuff online, people's knowledge or information that they've got has kind of been diluted down and things get messed up. But
will there be a BigLoz Classic, BigLoz Classic at any point?
Well, a strongman competition?
Yeah.
No, that's a long way away. I'm still competing myself right now. I've always said I don't want to promote shows that I don't want to be one of those promoters that competes in their own shows. So while I'm competing, no. But you know,
but later down the line, maybe.
Well, there's lots of things in the pipeline at the moment, so we'll see what happens. What did you score, Will?
4.
73. Six, 48, 68.
68. Loz, you require 42.
10 double 16. Well, that was shit. Oh, right.
Best score so far.
0. That's it, is it?
Oh, it is.
Yeah. Nice.
Right, you can go.
65. I need double.
30, so you got 12, double six.
Double six. 3. Oh. 10, 22, 25.
25. Lost, you require 6.
I don't like double 3. Oh!
No score. Well, you require 22.
Double 11. Nine or 14.
14. Lost, you require 6.
Thanks, Bust.
It's almost as good as Jim.
Well, you require 8.
Do you reckon he is voice on there?
Yeah. Oh, nice finish. Beautiful.
Yeah, there we go, that's the important.
I hope you guys have enjoyed today's show. I'm really pleased to have Will on the camera. He knows I hate kind of doing the presenting side of things. I'm trying to get better at it, but it's a lot more natural just having a chat, conversation with someone. So thank you. Pardon? Yeah, you're hiding again now, but thank you for joining me on camera. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Please like, share and subscribe the channel, and we will see you next time.